परञ्च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप वायुर्यमोह अग्निर्वरुणः शशाङ्कः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहश्च नमो नमस्ते अस्तु सहस्रकृत्वाः पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते।
It's colored veil and of the
Good morning. So we've begun Book 3, Canto 1. We've come to page 307. We're in the middle of the page, I believe. I don't have the line number, but all glory of outline, I think we begin at that line. So again, that's page 307. But before we take that up, I thought I would review a little bit. We've just been through a series of cantos in which Aswapati is exploring great heights of the spiritual consciousness. And I thought it might be maybe helpful just to try to distinguish those a little bit and just put a little bit of light on each of those. So beginning back at Canto 11 of Book 2, the kingdoms and godheads of the greater mind. So here Aswapati goes out beyond our physical mind that we are aware of here on earth and begins exploring these higher realms of the spiritual mind. And although Sri Aurobindo doesn't mention it anywhere, and perhaps it's a little bit of my interpretation, but it seems to me that he describes here 3 different levels of this greater mind, and they seem to correspond kind of to what he describes as the higher mind, the illumined mind, and the intuition. So these are what in his prose writings he describes these levels, intervening levels of the spiritual mind between human mind and supermind. Even above this intuition, there is still, he describes, overmind in his prose writings. And that also, I think, comes in another canto. But he describes these realms, and he describes them largely in terms of their influence on our earth consciousness, creating the realms of our higher thought. In a sense, they canalize the higher divine consciousness and make it kind of accessible to us. And so these are kind of passageways for us to move upwards, but also it's a passageway for the higher light of the divine to come on earth and to embody itself in these more narrow forms of our limited thought, our human thought. So he describes these beings of these worlds of the greater mind as kind of creators here. And the higher levels draw the broad outlines of things here, and the lower levels shape our own human thought, and in between are these godheads who create a lot of the different forms that we see here on earth. So you'll see quite in-depth, vivid descriptions of these different godheads and what they create here. After Canto 11, in Canto 12, he describes the heavens of the ideal. And here he describes again a kind of a stairway of worlds ascending upward, actually from the base of creation, the inconscient of matter, all the way up towards the highest heights of the spiritual consciousness. So there's a stairway of worlds, all different levels. And so these 3 levels of the greater mind are important levels of that in the higher spiritual consciousness. But then he describes on either side of this stairway of worlds, the heavens of the ideal, and on one side of the stairs he describes the kingdoms of the deathless rose, and on the other side of the stairway of these ascending worlds, the kingdoms of the deathless flame. And we've suggested that these are perhaps ideal types of the forces that we experience in the psychic consciousness, the psychic being, which we have. It's the soul within us. And he describes these as, in a way, standing behind, within this hierarchy of worlds. And they also provide a means of ascent up this stairway. One on the side of the deathless rose, through love and adoration of the divine, of beauty, and on the other side of the force of will to strive towards greater things. And he calls these the heavens of the ideal because also they inspire our own ideals here on earth. We also strive for harmony and beauty and love and togetherness, unity among peoples. So these are influences also from that side. And we also have our strivings towards greater and greater perfection, greater and greater expansion of our being, and a heightening of our being. So these are influences from these heavens of the ideal. And again, Sri Aurobindo in his prose writings largely describes our psychic being, the soul, standing behind our mind and life and body, and also as a force for aspiration upwards towards the divine, the part of us that actually comes from the divine, an eternal portion of our being that comes from the divine, but is also seeking its reunification with the divine here on earth. So after that, Sri Aurobindo describes in Canto 14 the world soul. And there he describes a realm which he says is the soul of the world. So we've seen in the heavens of the ideal this link with the psychic being, with the soul. But here he enters into a realm where our souls go in between lives on earth to go and rest there. So there's an eternal place where the soul resides and where the soul lives in its own natural environment. So there he describes a world in which everything is conscious, made of kind of this soul substance. And forms, the typical forms that we see are not there, but the soul is its own form. And it has, he describes there, the qualities very much of the soul. In describing that function of this world where it's a place where our individual souls go in between births, he describes the soul going into a period of trance, of rest, in which it assimilates its past experiences on earth and prepares for its future births, and particularly the next birth. So there is an evolutionary ascent of our individual souls, and this is a place where that is fashioned. So in a sense also the soul chooses some of the circumstances that it will have in its next life, but to some extent based on its experiences in the past lives. There in that world, Aswapati encounters the Divine Mother. Actually, the two-in-one, the Ishwara and Ishwari, or Ishwara and Shakti. So the Divine Being and the Divine Mother. And behind them, he sees this other being, one Supreme Being. And at the end of that canto, he falls down at her feet, unconscious, prone. So he meets, in a sense, the divine being here in this world of soul. And it represents for him what he is seeking, in a sense that this being has the power to change, to transform the life, but it can only be done through absolute surrender to this being. And he gives that surrender. But he still isn't finished in his journey. So in the next canto, the kingdoms of the greater knowledge, Aswapati kind of wakes up from this experience of falling before the divine being, and he looks around and he stood in a realm of boundless silences, awaiting the voice that spoke and built the worlds. So he enters a consciousness of absolute peace and silence. He's entering into what I believe here is the cosmic consciousness and the cosmic being. So he enters into an experience of a self, a being standing behind and creating the universe, the cosmos. I don't know if I can give some quotes that describe this. It says here at the bottom of page 298, out of the neutral silence of his soul, he passed to its fields of puissance and of calm, so of power and calm, and saw the powers that stand above the world, traverse the realms of the supreme idea, and sought the summit of created things and the almighty source of cosmic change. He comes to a realm where the transcendent is manifesting its universe as an expression of itself. And at the same time, he's conscious of the divine being, the divine creator above. We can also say associated with cosmic consciousness, this is described in his prose writings also as the overmind. So this is that realm above the intuition, the overmind consciousness, where there is a cosmic self, a being and a consciousness of absolute quietude and silence, and out of that consciousness, the worlds, all of creation emerging out of that. And that also is bordering on the higher realms of the supermind and of the transcendent consciousness. We can see just at the end of that canto, I'll read a little bit, page 302. His brain was wrapped in overwhelming light, and all-embracing knowledge seized his heart. Thoughts rose in him no earthly mind can hold. Mights played that never coursed through mortal nerves. He scanned the secrets of the overmind. He bore the rapture of the oversoul. A border of the empire of the sun. So that's the supermind above, attuned to the supernal harmonies. He linked creation. to the eternal sphere. So this is the borderline between the creation and the transcendent. His finite parts approached their absolutes. His actions framed the movements of the gods. His will took up the reins of cosmic force. Recently, we just celebrated on November 24th, Sri Aurobindo's realization of the overmind consciousness, of this consciousness coming into his physical body. In a sense, what he's describing here is very much what occurred to him at that time, on that day in 1926. Well, because he leaves behind everything that is finite in himself. He's just surrendering, and everything he loses or gives to that transcendent Divine Mother. Yes. All his individual self and all of that he leaves. So then we enter Book 3, the Book of the Divine Mother. And so we're reading in Canto 1, the pursuit of the unknowable. But here we see he's not even still kind of finished yet, although in this canto in particular, he's pursuing still that unknowable transcendent above, that he in a sense falls unconscious before that unknowable. So he's describing that he still doesn't know it, he senses it, but it's something that's unseizable to his experience. And he enters, in a way, a kind of a realm of emptiness, because it's unlike anything that is in the cosmos, in the manifestation so far. So it says on that first page of the canto, a silence settled on his striving heart, absolved from the voices of the world's desire. He turned to the ineffable's timeless call, a being intimate and unnameable, a wide, compelling ecstasy and peace, felt in himself and all, and yet ungrasped, approached and faded from his soul's pursuit, as if forever luring him beyond. Near it retreated, far it called him still. Nothing could satisfy but its delight. Its absence left the greatest actions dull. Its presence made the smallest seem divine. And then again on page 306, a giant doubt overshadowed his advance. This is in the middle of the page. Across a neutral, all-supporting void, whose blankness nursed his lone immortal spirit, allured toward some recondite supreme, aided, coerced by enigmatic powers, aspiring and half sinking and upborne, invincibly he ascended without pause. Always a signless, vague immensity brooded without approach, beyond response, condemning finite things to nothingness, fronting him with the commensurable. So the title of the canto, The Pursuit of the Unknowable, kind of epitomizes this experience that he's having. He's pursuing this presence that's unknowable, indefinable, and everything else is kind of seeming unreal or inadequate, not worthwhile. Only that is calling him. So that's where we are. And we'll just finish his description of this experience of the unknowable now. So, Suresh, would you like to read? So we're on page 307 at the middle of the page, all glory of outline.
All glory of outline, sweetnesses of ornament, rejected like a grace of trivial notes, expunged from being's silence nude history, dried into a fine and blissful nothingness. That demiurges tossed their names and forms, the great scheme world that they had planned and taught, paused, taken, and abolished one by one. The universe removed its colored weight, and at the
Imaginable.
unimaginable end of the huge riddle of created things appeared the fourth Zen goddess of the whole, feet on based on lights, stupendous beings, omnipotent and lonely sea of time, inward, incredible, with diamond gaze, attacked by the unfathomable regard, the onslaught suicidal to the storm return to raise again from the invisible sea.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So we see in this passage that he's experiencing the unreality of the world, of the manifestation of all forms, as if it's all dissolving into nothingness or meaninglessness. All glory of outline, sweetness of harmony, rejected like a grace of trivial notes, as if it becomes all kind of meaningless, all the form, all the beauty, all the wonder of the world, rejected, compared to this stupendous unknowable that he senses around him, above him. Everything else loses its significance, its reality, expunged from being silence, nude, austere. He feels this tremendous silence and vastness, emptiness, and he's living in that, and everything else seems unreal. The great schemed worlds that they had planned and wrought, these are the demiurges, the creators who have created all these different worlds that he's passed through in his journey. Passed, taken, abolished, one by one. All of those worlds of the creation, not only our physical universe, but all the subtle realms as well. All the worlds of mind and life through which he's passed. Yes. Yeah, he's experiencing the unreality of all things as if it's emerging, all of that has emerged out of nothingness, as if all of it has a basis of nothingness, and that's what gives it this sense of unreality. It's all emerging out of something. Now, one experience of it is that it's nothing, that it's an absence, a void of anything whatsoever. But how can something emerge out of nothing? So Sri Aurobindo explains in his prose writings that it's not actually a nothing, it's something beyond mind, that anything that mind can conceive. And so in order for what the mind does as it approaches that, it becomes an abstraction from everything that we know, from all form, from all limitation. And for the mind, that abstraction is a nothingness. Because the mind can only deal with form, with limits. It can't deal in the absolute. So for the mind, its best conception of it is that it's nothing.
I think for the back of mind, what we believe is needed.
Well, that's true. How we conceive of it and how we approach it also determines what we will experience of it. I think that's correct. And if we approach it as a nothing, then we can experience that way, because it can take that form. But we can also conceive of it in other ways, and we can experience it as something, but which is indefinable.
And also the description that is fine and nothingness, thought that is highest.
Mm. Yeah, it's a blissful nothingness. But the Buddhists might suggest, well, that's just because all creation is painful. So it's blissful because there's an absence of all things. But we'll see as we go through a little further that it's not just an empty nothingness.
Nothing, we don't create. Something is created.
Right, that's what, yes. How can the universe come out of a nothing? So that's the enigma. So let's continue and see what he says next. Sudanya. At the top of page 308. What?
Some lines actually there. Like one.
Okay, you read from where you think we left off.
All from his positions born was now unborn, undone. Nothing remained, the cosmic mind conceives. Eternity prepared the fade and seemed a hue and impositions on the void. Space was the fluttering of a dream that sank before its ending into nothing's deeps. The spirit that dies not and the Godhead self seem myths projected from the unknowable. From it all sprang, in it is called the seas, but what that was, no thought nor sight could tell. Only a formless form of self was left, a tenuous ghost of something that had been, the last experience of a lasting wave before it sank into a boundless sea, as if it kept even on the brink of naught, it bare feeling of the oceans whence it came. The vastness brooded free from sense of space, a everlastingness cut off from time, a strange, sublime, inalterable peace, silent, rejected from it, world and soul.
Thank you. So this description continues that sense of nothingness of this experience, but he does give a hint that perhaps it's not nothing, but what that was, no thought nor sight could tell. But it seems as if all emerges out of it and then ultimately sinks back into it. Eternity prepared to fade and seemed a hue and imposition on the void. He's still experiencing it more or less as a void, because it's beyond anything mind can conceive. So he's unable to conceive, have any conception of it, define it in any way. So it seems to the mind from that realm as an emptiness. But we see also it has these kind of characteristics of vastness, brooded free from the sense of space, an everlastingness cut off from time, a strange, sublime, inalterable peace, silent, rejected from it, world and soul. So we'll continue. Would you like to read? A stark companionless reality.
Stark companionless reality, answer at last to his soul's passionate search. Passionless, wordless, absorbed in the fathomless heart. Keeping the mystery known with every piece, brood inscrutable and intangible, facing him which is damn tremendous calm. It had no kinship with the universe. There was no act, no movement in its vast. Life's questions met by its silent eye on her lips. World's efforts ceased convict of ignorance, finding no sanction of supernal life. There was no mind there with its need to know. There was not heart there with its need to love. All person perished in its namelessness. There was no second, it had no partner nor peer. Only itself was real to itself.
Thank you. So here he describes it perhaps in slightly more positive terms, again, as if it might be something, but still unknowable or indefinable. He describes it as a stark, companionless reality. Yeah, it's the absolute. but it's still silent. It's still absolutely quiet. This vast sense of emptiness is what it is to his experience. Passionless, wordless, absorbed in its fathomless hush, keeping the mystery none would ever pierce. It's as if perhaps it's holding something within it, but one can't seize what that is. It brooded, inscrutable and intangible, facing him with its dumb, tremendous calm. There was no act, no movement in its vast, no question, no effort. All effort ceased, convicted of ignorance. No mind, no heart, no need for anything, no person. All person perished in its namelessness. And yet it alone seems real. Only itself was real to itself. It's also a oneness. It's the only thing that seems to exist. So we continue, Debashish.
A pure existence safe from thought and mood, a consciousness of unshared immortal bliss. It dwelt aloof in its bare infinite, one and unique, unutterably soul, a being formless, whether featureless and mute, that knew itself by its own timeless self, aware forever in its motionless depths, uncreating, uncreated, and unborn, the one by whom all live, who lives by none, an immeasurable luminous secrecy, guarded by the veils of the unmanifest, above the changing cosmic interlude, abode supreme, immutably the same, a silent cause occult, impenetrable, infinite, eternal, unthinkable, alone.
Thank you. So here again, we're given a little bit more positive image of this. He's describing it as a pure existence, but safe from thought and mood. A consciousness, he describes it as a consciousness here. It's not only an emptiness, of unshared immortal bliss. It dwelt aloof in its bare infinite, one and unique, unutterably soul. Absolutely alone, without anything else, any second, only that seems to exist. A being, again, a more positive formulation of it, a being formless, featureless, and mute, that knew itself by its own timeless self, aware forever in its motionless depths. So again, he's describing it here as a consciousness and awareness, but beyond time and space, uncreating, uncreated, and unborn. It's as if standing aloof from all creation, which seems next to that as unreal or unsubstantial, as if it emerged out of that. The one by whom all live, who lives by none. So here he's giving it a more positive characteristic in that all else is dependent on that. All has emerged from that. Only all else, if it has any existence, has existence only because of that.
I want to ask that it's strange for me that I think it's language.
Yeah, he's using that. Well, he doesn't want to give it this personal quality of a he or she at this point. And so, yes, in English we only have he, she, or it. If you use he or she, then it's immediately suggestive of a kind of being.
Yeah, but I don't mean that. It's more like it's being is more like philosophy, right? It is because it's language, like it's a description, so we can't not use something else.
Yeah, that's.
Like it's something else that.
We just use that pronoun kind of standing for it, whatever it is. It doesn't suggest any particular characteristic. He or she suggests a certain characteristic, so it's better perhaps to use it in that sense, because what he's describing here is something undefinable.
Just where it started, where it was on 3:08, I think eternity prepared to fade foremost is the spirit.
From it all sprang, and there he uses a capital it, a capitalized it. From it all sprang, in it is called to cease. So that's about a quarter of the way down on 308. So he capitalizes it there. Other places he's not using capitals. Yeah, I don't have the line numbers, so if you want to point out a line, you have to read it.
So, real spiritual education, so not people language, this and that, but spiritual is a high level, you can't understand everything very simply. Not very
Yeah. He's describing something that's indescribable here, in a sense. So he's doing the best you can to describe something which is essentially beyond description. And yeah, that's all we can say. So, and it's because mind can only deal with concepts, with defined ideas that are separate from other ideas, and we can only kind of rearrange these different ideas with one another and try to build some kind of understanding. But that is beyond all of this. All of these different concepts before this, whatever it is, just fall flat and insignificant and unreal and, inadequate.
Mind always means abstract, something pure, but spirit always means active. That is the way.
Yeah, it's spirit, it's something different than mind. Perhaps, in the Vedantic kind of philosophy, that this being is Satchidananda, absolute existence, consciousness, bliss. So that's kind of, for Vedanta, the best way that we can describe this utter reality. Absolute pure existence, just pure existence, nothing else. No definable features or anything, just that it exists. And consciousness, an absolute consciousness, and an absolute bliss. So he kind of describes that at the top of page 309. A pure existence, safe from thought and mood, a consciousness of unshared immortal bliss. So we see right here this kind of description of Satchidananda. It dwelt aloof in its bare infinite. It's as if standing apart from the universe, from things, from all definable feature.
This is my view of knowledge. I explain the whole thing, and I'm sorry, we don't have the words for that.
So even though it's beyond all things, can't be defined by any form, it's still, at the end, he says, a silent cause, occult, hidden, impenetrable. It's the cause of all, but we can't pierce into it to see what it is. But in the next canto, we'll get a better sense of that it contains within itself something more than this kind of emptiness, this aloofness from all creation, in which creation just seems to dissolve into emptiness or meaninglessness, that it actually has a connection with the universe. We see at the end here that it is the cause of the universe, but also we'll see it has a relation with the universe. So we can begin, I think, to read through Canto 2, the Adoration of the Divine Mother. So we'll read through it once without comment, and then we'll go back after. It's a short canto. We'll see, hopefully we can read through it all this time. So, Nitya, would you like to?
A stillness absolute, incommunicable, meets the sheer self-discovery of the soul. A wall of stillness shuts it from the world. A gulf of stillness swallows up the sense and makes unreal all that the mind has known, all that the laboring senses still would weave, prolonging an imaged unreality. Self's vast spiritual silence occupies space. Only the inconceivable is left, only the nameless without space and time. Abolished is the burdening need of life. Thought falls from us. We cease from joy and grief. The ego is dead. We are freed from being and care. We have done with birth and death and work and fate. O soul, it is too early to rejoice. Thou hast reached the boundless silence of the self. Thou hast leaped into a glad divine abyss. But where hast thou thrown self's mission and self's power? On what dead bank on the eternal's road? One was within thee who was self and world. What hast thou done for his purpose in the stars? Escape brings not the victory and the crown.
Thank you. Continue.
Because only of God's cosmic
No,
work is
something thou camest to do.
something thou comest to do from the unknown, but nothing is finished and the world goes on. Because only of God's cosmic work is done. Only the everlasting no has neared and started into the eyes and killed thy heart. But where is the lover's everlasting yes? And immortally in the secret heart, the voice that chant to the Creator fire, the symboloid Om, the great ascending word, the bridge between the rapture and the calm, the passion and the beauty of the bride, the chamber where the glorious enemies kiss, the smile that saves, the golden peak of things. This too is truth at the mystery fount of life. The black veil has been lifted, we have seen. The mighty shadow of the conscious Lord, but who has lifted up the veil of light. And who has seen the body of the King, The mystery of God's birth and act remains, leaving unbroken the last chapter sealed. Unsolved the riddle of the unfinished play. The cosmic player loved within his mask. And still the last inviolate secret hides behind the human glory of the form, behind the golden eidolon of the name.
Thank you. Margaret?
A large white line has figured as a goal, but far beyond the ineffable sun-track's blaze. What seemed the source and end was a wide gate, a last bare step into eternity. An eye has opened upon timelessness. Infinity takes back the forms it gave. And through God's darkness, or his naked light, his million rays return into the sun. There is a zero sign of the Supreme. Nature, left nude, and still uncovers God, but in her grandiose nothingness, all is there. When her strong garbs are torn away from us, the soul's ignorance is slain, but not the soul. The zero covers an immortal face. A high and blank negation is not all. A huge extinction is not God's last word. Life's ultimate sense, the close of being's course, the meaning of this great mysterious world. In absolute silence sleeps an absolute power. Awaking, it can wake the trance-bound soul, and in the ray reveal the parent sun. It can make the world a vessel of spirit's force. It can fashion in the clay God's perfect shape. To free the self is but one radiant pace. Here, to fulfill himself was God's desire.
Thank you.
Even while he stood on being's naked edge, and all the passion and seeking of his soul faced their extinction in some faithless paths. The presence he yearned for suddenly drew close, across the silence of the ultimate calm, out of marvelous transcendence core, a body of wonder and translucence, as if sweet mystic summary on herself, escaping into the original bliss, had come erlanges out of eternity. Someone came infinite and absolute, a being of wisdom, power, and delight. Even as a mother draws her child on her arms, took her breast nature and word and soul, abolishing the sinless emptiness, breaking the vacancy and voiceless hush, piercing the limitless unknowable into the liberty of the motionless depths, a beautiful and felicious lustrous soul. The power, the light, the bliss no word can speak, imaged itself in a surprising beam, a veil, a golden passage to his heart, touching through him all lonely sentient things. A moment's sweetness, all beautiful, cancel the vanity of the cosmic world.
Thank you.
A nature throbbing with a heart divine was felt in the unconscious universe. It made the breath a happy mystery, a love that bore the cross of pain with joy. You demonized sorrow of the world, made happy the weight of long unending time, the secret code of God's felicity. Affirming in life a hidden ecstasy, it held the spirit to its miraculous course, carrying immortal values to the hours. It justified the labor of the suns. For one was there supreme behind the God, a mother might brooded upon the world. The consciousness revealed its marvelous front, transcending all that is, denying none. Imperishable above our fallen heads, he felt a rapturous and unstumbling force. The undying truth appeared, the enduring power of all that here is made and then destroyed. The mother of all Godheads and all strengths, who, mediatrix, binds earth to the supreme.
Thank you.
The enigma ceased that rules our nature's night. The covering nescience was unmasked and slain. Its mind of error was stripped off from things and the dull moods of its perverting will. Illumined by her all-seeing identity, knowledge and ignorance could strive no more. No longer could the titan opposites, antagonist poles of the world's artifice, impose the illusion of their twofold screen, throwing their figures between us and her. The wisdom was near, disguised by its own works, of which the darkened universe is the robe. No more existence seemed an aimless fall. Extinction was no more the sole release. The hidden word was found, the long-sought clue. Revealed was the meaning of our spirit's birth, condemned to an imperfect body and mind, in the unconscience of material things and the indignity of mortal life. A heart was felt in the spaces wide and bare, a burning love from wide spiritual founts annulled the sorrow of the ignorant depths. Suffering was lost in her immortal smile.
Thank you. I'll continue. A life from beyond grew conqueror here of death. To err no more was natural to mind. Wrong could not come where all was light and love. The formless and the formed were joined in her. Immensity was exceeded by a look. A face revealed the crowded infinite. Incarnating inexpressibly in her limbs, the boundless joy the blind world forces seek. Her body of beauty mooned the seas of bliss. At the head she stands of birth and toil and fate. In their slow round, the cycles turn to her call. Alone, her hands can change time's dragon base. Hers is the mystery the night conceals. The spirit's alchemist energy is hers. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. The luminous heart of the unknown is she. The power of silence in the depths of God. She is the force, the inevitable word, the magnet of our difficult ascent, the sun from which we kindle all our suns, the light that leans from the unrealized vasts, the joy that beckons from the impossible, the might of all that never yet came down. Sir?
All natures call her alone, to heal with her feet the aching throb of life, and break the seals and the dimmed soul of man, and kindle her fire in the closed out of things. All her shall be one day her sweetness's home. All contraries prepare her harmony towards her knowledge, times of passion gropes. In her miraculous rapture we shall dwell. Her clouds shall turn to ecstasy our pain. Our self shall be one self with all through her. In her conformed, because transformed in her, our life shall find in its fulfilled response above the boundless hushed beatitudes, below the wonder of the Empress Divine, is known as in a thunder crash of God, the rapture of things, eternal fill his limbs, amazement full upon his ravished sense, his spirit was caught in her intolerant flame, one seen, his heart acknowledged only her, only a hunger of infinite bliss was left. All aims in her were lost, then found in her. His base was gathered to one pointing sphere.
Thank you.
This was a seed cast into endless time. A word is spoken, or a light is shown. A moment ceased, the ages stored its breath. So flashing out of the timeless beautiful words, an eternal instant is the cost of the year. All he had done was to prepare the field. His small beginnings asked for a mighty end. For all that he had been must now new shape. In him, her joy to embody, to enshrine, her beauty and greatness in his house of life. But now, his being was too wide for self. His heart's demand had grown immeasurable. His single freedom could not satisfy. Her light, her bliss, he asked for earth and men. But vain are human power and human love to break earth's seal of ignorance and death. His natured might seemed now in infant's grasp. Heaven is too high for outstretched hands to save. This light comes not by struggle or by thought. In the mind's silence, the transcendent act, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. A vast surrender was his only strength, the power that lives upon the height must act, bring into life's close room the immortal air, and fill the finite with the infinite. All that denies must be born, torn out, and slain, and crush the many longings for whose sake. We lose the one for whom our lives were made. Now other claims have passed with him their cry. Only he longed to draw her presence and power into his heart and mind and breathing frame. Only he yearned to call forever down her healing touch of love and truth and joy into the darkness of the suffering world. His soul was freed again and given to her alone.
Thank you. So we'll stop there for today and we'll go through the canto again next time, commenting on it.
त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषः पुराण स्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानं वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परं च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप वायुर्यमोह अग्निर्वरुणः शशाङ्कः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहश्च नमो नमस्ते अस्तु सहस्रकृत्वाः पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते
The universe removed its colored veil, and at the unimaginable end of the huge riddle of created things appeared the far-seen Godhead of the whole. His feet, firm based on life's stupendous wing, omnipotent, all lonely seer of time, inward, inscrutable, with diamond gaze,
पुरुषः पुराण स्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानं वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परं च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप वायुर्यमोह अग्निर्वरुणः शशाङ्कः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहश्च नमो नमस्ते अस्तु सहस्रकृत्वाः पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.